All of us. All of us. And then when we go to that same Haitian brother, and he speaks to us in that, and boy, you talking something about me. It's that lack of trust that we just have for ourselves, period. And they are the ones who we could put that scapegoat on because we see them as the lowest. Nobody can look down on us for talking down on them, so okay. And that is what we do. So we have to get this knowledge so that we can have people to have less fear. And you shouldn't be afraid when people, or as the brother was saying earlier, don't fall in their emotional traps when you find yourself in a arena, whether it be on the radio or just talking to somebody. Don't fall into their emotional traps because that person is a victim. Just realize that that's somebody that you now have to educate. And if they don't receive your education, then so. Not every student will pass every class, but you still have to teach. And if your interest is just about teaching people, then some people will get it, some will not get it, but you still must teach, especially about a goal that is as important as this. Because this is very, very, very important. And sometimes those of us who feel the affinity, we use pity, those of us who want to help, sometimes we pity people. Oh, those poor Haitians, everybody ganging up on them. Oh, this one, that one. And in some ways, we're really elevating ourselves when we do that. Because we figure, I am the big hero, Superman without my cape, and I am coming to the rescue of these lowly people. But there's something wrong with that to me too. Because we all have our struggles, and we must all recognize that in solidarity, we come together to address our struggles. I might not be able to read, but I can't fish. But I can fish, sorry. Whereas you might be able to fish and can't read. Why should I look at myself who could read and say, I'm smarter than you, when you have knowledge in something that I cannot do? If you must read something, then I must read it for you. Because definitely when I want to eat fish, you have to catch it for me. Simple and plain. But somehow somebody put these things in our mind to say that if you could read, you better than the man with catching the fish. If you from the Bahamas, you better than the man with from this place and from that place. Who put it in our mind? Who put it there? Who is the root of all of these things? And when we look at that, we'll see who the true culprit is. We'll see who we really need to be watching out for, who we really need to get more information of, because they are the people who create the most fear. And I'm not pointing my fingers at any group in particular, but anybody who you think fall in that, those are the people who we need to find out. We need to know what they're doing. We need to know how it is that they have so much control that they could put these things in our mind. We need to know about them so that we could work around them as we build this time around. Because that brings me to my next point. African unity is world unity. Many of y'all ain't gonna like what I say right now, but watch ya. You see that pants drop down low thing? Y'all look at it and y'all say, oh, that's nasty, that's disgusting, that started by sissies in the jail. And why these fellas want to do that in the next thing? But Versace was a sissy. If you want to call it that, I mean, I'm sure there's a better way of putting it. But when we talk about that, the guys with their pants drop low, we feel good to call it a sissy. But then when we talk about Versace and them, somehow we want to get politically correct. But this is, let's not get into that part of it. The part that I want to get is that we say that that is something that was created by the lowest of black people, who we think is the lowest of the low. Homosexuals in jail. And we say this, that, the next thing about it. Why these boys want to do that? They don't know what that means. But why the boys in China want to do that now? Why the boys in Israel want to do that now? There's not one continent you can go on and not see people with their pants dropped low. Started by the worst of us. And that's just one example. Another one, these same locks on my head. Same locks on my head. Rastafari was supposed to be something that just all these low backward this and that people, and they just all thief and will come in my yard and get my free food and this and that. Thief might buy my children bicycle and all of that. That's what it was supposed to be. But you can travel the world around now and you see Rastafari. I was at a conference a few years ago, Rasta conference, and they had a brother there from Japan. The only thing I could communicate with this brother and say was Rastafari. That's all I could say. But this brother, he's sitting down there, everything in English, but he absorbing, and him and his whole family traveled from Japan. Him, his 2 daughters, and his wife. They traveled from Japan for this thing. I say that not to say y'all must be Rasta. I say that not to say drop your pants low tomorrow. I say that to say what we do as an African people, the rest of the world follows. Simple and plain. What we do as an African people, the rest of the world follows. So we look at ourselves as low. We look at ourselves as this, that, the next thing. So the rest of the world look at themselves as that way because we are that light. And until we start working together on this solidarity, until that time, we will have all kinds of problems. And it ain't, I'm not saying it's easy, you know. This why it's a mammoth task that we undertaking right now. It's big. But the results of it is equally as big. Not just for us, but for the whole world. The same problem of Haitian and Bahamian don't like each other because of immigration and this and that. I don't think there's one country you can go in and don't find that. If you go in the lower Caribbean, it's the people from Guyana. Who are the Haitians of the lower Caribbean? It's always somebody who people can look down on and blame it. So this is an international, this is a world, this is a human situation. And trying to tackle it, each and every one of us in our own little way. Lambi, Indaba Project, all the individuals here, we have taken it upon ourselves that this is one of the arenas that we will try it in. It's not the first. Sorry, it's not the first and it's not the last. But from here, these arenas only make sense if when we walk out of here, there's going to be one thing that we're going to do different. If we're going to just walk out there and do the same thing, then thanks at least for listening. You know? No, for real. Because change don't come by doing the same thing. The headmaster at the school I teach at always says, the mark of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I respect him because he's been teaching for almost 50 years. So I take what he says without even questioning it. Right? But the time is coming. We've gone through a lot as an African people. We've gone through a lot in the world. The violence that you see now out on the street, out there, and the problem that has us so afraid, that's nothing new. We were living in a violent time. The Arawaks, who were the original inhabitants of this land, are no longer here. Not as a result of the fellows out there with them guns, which they did not create. All right? This is a violent time that we are in. And I feel confident, you know, that we as an African people are survivors. And that we will survive. Not all of us, but the mere fact that each and every one of us sitting down here, it means that in our heritage, in our ancestry, is a spirit of survival. Because there are many who did not survive. And it is that spirit that is regenerating now, regenerating now, regenerating now. That's why we have in forums like this. 10 years ago, I don't think there would have been a forum like this. 10 years ago, there was no Indaba lecture series that Alex was talking about. But now we have it. Now these things are happening. And this is the momentum. And we're inviting everyone, as much people as possible, to be a part of this momentum, this solidarity, this movement that will in fact heal the world. Thank you for listening.